I dug it from a corpse heap, buried beneath burned armor and bone-charred earth. It gleamed, though not with light. No, the blade drank light. Its edge was dull and black, veined with veins of glowing ember like veins under burnt skin. Its hilt was leather, cracked and seared, and when I touched it, I heard 3 voices sigh. That should have warned me, but I was tired of war, of marching, and bleeding, and losing, so I took it, and the world changed. I was a common soldier then, no name worth repeating, a ragged coat, a dull sword, and scars layered like old bark. The war had gone on for years, kings dead, thrones burned, borders blurred. I fought for the last flag that would pay me. That day they didn't. We lost again. I was the only one still breathing, buried under ash and screams, until I found the blade, until it found me. The first time I drew it, the air rippled, not heat, memory. Ash rose from the ground in spirals, thick and slow. 3 shapes took form around me, stepping from the smoke like wolves from fog. The first was a dog, as tall as a horse, eyes like burning coals, mouth full of black teeth. It breathed cinders. The second was a stag with ribs showing through scorched hide, its antlers tipped with iron blades, smoke leaking from its hooves. The third was a serpent, long as a siege ladder, its body coiled with brands and chain, voice like the hiss of dying flame. They bowed their heads to me, not with loyalty, with recognition, and I understood. They had followed this blade before, and they would follow it again. I brought down a fortress that night, alone. The beasts did the rest. No man could stand against them, no wall could hold, and when the cinders cooled, I stood amidst ruin, and they waited at my back. They called me Ashblade after that. No one asked where I came from. They only saw what followed. I became a weapon of victory. I brought down lords. I broke sieges. I gave the war a new tide. And wherever I went, the beasts hunted for me, killed for me, burned for me. But at night, they spoke, only in dreams. The dog would howl and whisper of a village burned. The stag bled from its throat, and cried my name. Before I bore it, the serpent curled around my bed, and told me stories I had forgotten. But the names were familiar. It was months before I admitted the truth. Each beast bore a soul, not just any souls, souls of the dead I had made. I recognized the dog's snarl from a man I'd run through during a night raid, his hound leaping at me as I stabbed. The stag wore the eyes of a rebel captain I'd slain in the snow, who'd once spared my life and regretted it. The serpent gods. The serpent was a boy, a messenger, barely grown. I'd cut him down for fear he'd raise the alarm. He'd cried out my name, before it meant power, before it meant fear. I tried to bury the blade, deep, in the heart of the sea, but it found its way back, always. When I woke, it was beside me, humming with heat. The beasts waited, ever silent. Their eyes never left me, and I still used it, because I had to. The kingdom I fought for crumbled without me. The war would rise again. That's what I told myself. But the truth was, I liked the silence when my enemies burned, and I feared what the beasts would do if I stopped. My tried rise to the palace, the last king, the final war. They crowned me before the fires were out, called me savior, rebuilder. They built statues of me, with the blade held high. But the beasts grew restless. They prowled the shadows. They stared at the statues. They whispered louder, "We are not weapons. We are not tools. We are not yours." One night I found the dog curled on my throne. Its eyes wept molten tears. "Do you remember my name?" it asked. I didn't. I had never asked it. Not before I killed him. Not after. The next day I found the stag beneath the stained glass windows. It shattered them with a cry. My kingdom was small, it said, but I ruled it with love. What do you rule with? I had no answer. The serpent came last, wrapped around the blade, whispering with venom. I wanted to live. My tries dropped the blade. It burned my hand, not with heat, with guilt. It branded me, and the beasts turned, not away, on me. They tore through my court. They spared no statue, no lie, no shrine. I fled, to where I found the blade, to the corpse heap, where it all began. The beasts around me, waiting, not for command, but for judgment. And I know the truth. Power born of guilt is still power, but it feeds on the dead, and the dead grow hungry. Not. So I raise the blade one last time, not to summon, but to offer myself, to ash, to them, to peace. Let this war end. Let the beasts rest. Let the blade cool. And let the next man who finds it see more than ruin. Let him see me, and remember. They said my house had fallen, the coins gone, the land sold. My name, once etched in iron above the temple gates, now spoken only in jest. The noble fool, they called me, too proud to beg, too weak to fight. They were right. Tet. I slept in the attic of the crumbling estate, rats for company, and rain for music, wrapped in the last tapestry, bearing my family's crest, a burning crown above a broken sword. I would have vanished quietly, had it not been for the coffin. He came with the lawyer, a man like mildew, pale and soft-spoken. He handed me a single key, and a scroll bearing my great-uncle's seal, Mad Arlo, the only one in our bloodline more cursed than I. The scroll read, "For when the world no longer wants you, unlock it only at night, behind the old mausoleum, beneath a moss-eaten slab." I found it a coffin of black lacquer, etched with flame glyphs, warm to the touch, despite the winter air. Inside it was lined with feathers, not just feathers, phoenix feathers. They shimmered like embers, they pulsed, and when I climbed inside, the air shifted, the lid snapped shut of its own will, and the coffin flew. It didn't soar like a bird, it glided, silent as a shadow. I looked through its eye slit, and saw the roofs pass beneath me, the forests curl like painted waves, the moon blaze close enough to touch. I laughed, perhaps the first true laugh since my title was stripped. I had nothing, but this was freedom. I began with the towers of sorcerers. They built them tall, selfish, stuffed with relics they barely understood. The coffin needed no door. It could slip through gaps in stone, through the whisper of warded wind. I stole a glove that could pluck secrets from ink, a gem that held 3 questions worth of truth, a dagger that could cut the future from the present. I sold none of it. I used it. Each relic, each prize made me bolder, more alive. And then I saw her, the moon princess, high in her silver tower, where starlight grew heavy, and the world forgot its weight. She sat alone, cursed never to walk beneath the sun. They said her breath could charm the tides, that her tears fell as pearls. Her sorrow through the coffin slit, curled on a balcony of obsidian, her hair trailing like silk drowned in milk. I loved her before she even looked at me. Each night, I returned. I brought her dreams carved in crystal, apples that glowed with otherworldly flame, notes played on an ocarina that made the stars pause. She never spoke. She only smiled, and in that smile, I saw the last echo of my name. One night, I asked her, "Why do you never speak?" She looked at me, truly looked, and whispered, "Because the dead cannot court the dead." I didn't understand, not then, but the coffin did. That night, it flew faster, lower. It scraped the misty edge of the underworld, where the trees are made of bone, and the rivers run black. I felt a pull, deep in the lining of the feathers, something ancient. The coffin didn't bring me away from death. It was meant to take me there. I stopped flying for a time, boarded up the mausoleum, hid the key, but I couldn't sleep, not without dreams of her. My moon princess with her pearl-lashed eyes and skin lit by grief, and in those dreams, she called me back. So I returned, one last flight. I brought nothing with me, no gifts, no relics, just myself. She met me on the balcony. This time she held out her hand, and I took it. The coffin waited, open, feathers smoldering. Her tower cracked as we stepped inside. She did not flinch, neither did I. We flew, not across the world, below it, through fireless sky and ash wind, toward the kingdom she came from, toward the one I'd always been running from. I don't remember landing, only the stillness, the quiet, and her voice. You stole from the living, you loved the dead, now you belong to both. The coffin remains, it flies still, but only at night. Some say they see it pass overhead, silent, black, a thread between stars. Those who chase it vanish, those who hide from it dream of a prince with no name, and a princess who weeps pearls in the dark. They say it's a curse, but I know better. It's love, tangled with death, and neither one lets go. It began with the ringing. No one else in the monastery heard it. Not the elders bent in prayer, not the scribes hunched over scripture, not even Brother Halden, whose ears were so sharp he could hear a sparrow turn in its sleep. But I heard it, a distant echoing chime. Not brass, not silver, something older, dry and hollow, as if the sound itself had been left in the sun too long. It came only at dusk, just as the last candle was lit, and the shadows stretched long across the stone. A bell, I thought, but not from our tower. It came from the woods, and I followed it. The others called the forest cursed, old growth trees with bark like scabbed skin, roots that curled like fingers, moss thick as wool, the sort of place saints once went to die, alone, starving, silent. They said the forest was where the world had stopped listening to prayer. But the bell called me, not loudly, not urgently, just patiently, a knowing sound. The first time I stepped beneath the branches, I took only my robe and a lantern. The light did nothing. The mist devoured it. Still, I walked. The trees shifted around me. Old stone markers jutted from the undergrowth, unreadable, worn smooth, half swallowed by earth. I found one shaped like a kneeling figure, its face gone. The bell rang again, closer. Nas. I returned to the monastery before dawn. My feet were raw, my hands trembling, but I slept better than I had in years. And the next night, I went back. Each night, the bell led me farther, past crumbled altars, past rusted chains embedded in tree trunks, past pits filled with bones that did not look quite human. I uncovered tombs, whispered names etched in fading script. Saint Aruon, Blessed Merith, Sanctus VM. Each grave I touched made the bell ring louder, more hungry. Nas. I told no one. They wouldn't understand. They still bowed before relics. I had begun to dig them up, not out of heresy, but because I wanted to know. Why were they buried in silence? Why did their names vanish from the hymns? Why did the bell call me? Nas. One night I found it, in the hollow of a hill, beneath roots that tangled like veins. The bell, it hung from a frame of blackened wood, suspended over a circle of stone. It was not brass, it was made of bone, rib curved into rim, spine shaped into yoke. The clapper was a knuckle bone, worn smooth. When I stepped into the circle, it rang once, and I saw them, the saints, kneeling around the hill, eyes open and blind, their mouths sewn shut with thorns, their hands folded in bloodless prayer. They looked at me without moving, without breathing, and I knew, this is what awaits me. Nas. The bell was not a call to worship, it was a summons. Each saint had once followed the sound, each had once believed, and each had been taken, not killed, transformed, their holiness carved, stripped, shaped into the bell itself. The holy fed it, made it louder. Then now it had chosen me. Nas. I fled, back to the monastery, to light and warmth, and the illusion of safety. But the bell followed. Its sound clung to my bones. I heard it in my teeth, in my breath, in the silence between words. Then I began to change. My prayers grew longer, my voice quieter, my skin pale as wax. They called it devotion. I knew it was decay. Nas, I tried to tell Brother Halden. He wept, and then he vanished. The next night, the bell rang sweeter. Nas, I stayed awake for days. I carved scripture into my walls, lit every candle. The bell never tired. Then I was growing thin, not in body, in soul, as if something was scraping me out, one heartbeat at a time. Nas, on the final night, I returned to the forest, not to run, to end it. I brought a hammer, fire, iron nails. The bell was waiting, so were the saints. They did not move, but they watched, with eyes that remembered what they had once been. Nas, I struck the bell, not to ring it, to break it. The bone cracked. The saints screamed, not aloud, but inside me. Memories poured through my skin. Suffering, glory, sacrifice, obedience. I fell to my knees. The bell sang, one last time, a sound like falling snow and bleeding stars, and then, silence. Nas, I woke in the monastery, alive, alone, but my bones ached. They pulsed when dusk fell, they hummed when I prayed. Nas, I speak less now, walk slowly. Each night, I feel something growing beneath my skin, a shape, a curve, a rim. Nas, one day someone will hear it, the bell ringing again. They'll follow it into the woods and find the bones I leave behind. Nas, and they'll ask what holiness is worth this hunger. I was not supposed to bleed. Not me. I had spent my life becoming clean. I washed thrice each day with spring water, crushed lavender into my wrists, whispered the old prayers while staring into my reflection until it stopped flickering. I carved my words carefully, walked in straight lines, memorized every moment of beauty I ever saw, so I could compare myself to it and find myself lacking. But not forever, because I had heard of the Thorn Sanctum. They say it lies beyond the Briarlands, where sunlight goes to die, a place the old monks abandoned, a place where no road dares lead. In the center of the sanctum is a flower that never wilts, a flower that stops time. If I found it, I could pluck it and become pure, untouched by rot, unblemished by history, immune to failure, a perfect self, forever. I entered the maze on the last day of spring. The briars breathed. I felt it, even if I couldn't see it. Their thorns shimmered black and red, like dried blood caught in moonlight. The paths twisted, not just across the land, but within my mind. Still, I walked. I did not fear thorns. I would not bleed. But the first thorn found me easily. A slip, barely a scratch on my palm. The briars trembled and bloomed. A black rose opened at my feet, and in its center, I saw a memory. My father drunk and raging, smashing the glass mirror I loved. Me too small to stop him, too afraid to speak. I turned away. The thorn wound burned. I walked faster. Another thorn, my elbow this time, caught on a hidden vine. Another bloom, another vision. The boy I struck with a stone, weeping in the orchard. He'd teased me for stuttering. I made sure he'd never laugh again. I told myself I was just, but the thorn said otherwise. Each step drew more blood. Each thorn remembered more than I wanted it to. I began to see them before they bloomed. Faces I buried, lies I painted gold, sins I wore like silk and called righteous. They were all waiting, inside me. I tried to turn back. The path behind was gone. Thorns had woven it shut. I was not a pilgrim. I was a prisoner. Deeper still, now the thorns sought me, leaping like snakes from the walls, kissing my skin, carving lines across my back and chest, and each cut bloomed, and each bloom showed me. Not the boy who prayed, not the voice that spoke the verses, but the creature beneath, the frightened one, the cruel one, the real one. I fell once, crawled through mud, my blood mixed with roots. 100 roses opened at once. I couldn't look away. My betrayal, my hunger, my pride, all the ways I had polished the rot, and called it purity. The maze didn't want to punish me, it wanted me to see. At last the center, a clearing. A single stalk rose from the briars, untouched by thorn, bearing a bloom of pale white petals that shimmered like morning frost, the flower that halted time. I reached for it, but the thorns coiled around my ankles, not to drag me down, to show me the final bloom. From my heart it unfurled, dark, shining, and in it my truest self, not perfect, not pure, not even kind, but honest, and tired, so very tired. I touched the flower, not to take it, to let it go. It turned to ash, time surged on, and I wept. I walked from the maze at dawn. The briars parted without resistance. I was bloodied, scarred, but lighter, not holy, not flawless, just real, and in the end, that was enough. The fire took him, not a slow creeping one. No, this was wild, hungry flame, red as wrath, and swift as thought. By the time I reached the cottage, the roof had fallen in, and the garden was already turning to cinder. I ran through smoke, splinters and coals clawed my boots. I shouted his name. No answer, just the pop of burning beams, and a shape, just for a breath, flickering at the edge of the trees, cloaked in ash, wreathed in smoke. It didn't run, it drifted, carrying something small in its arms. I knew, even then, but I ran after it anyway, though they called me mad when I returned to the village, and said I would go after the smoke walker, said no man followed that path, and came back the same. I didn't argue, I was already not the same. The land beyond the fire was ruined. No wind, no birds, just a blanket of ash, thick as snow, turning the sky to chalk. I walked through the bones of burned trees, past the ghosts of homes and the shells of animals scorched in place, the figure always just ahead. I never saw its face, but I heard lullabies in its wake, and laughter. His laughter. The woman made of cinders barred my path, her skin flaked with every breath, her hair a curtain of ember threads. Where do you go, Ash Walker? To find my son, I said. She looked into my eyes for a long time, then held out her hand. Your first memory, the moment he was born. I hesitated. She smiled sadly. You cannot carry love through this land without cost. Yes, I gave it, and forgot the scent of new skin. The way his first cry made me fall to my knees, but I walked on. Next was a river of soot, guarded by a ferryman, whose oars were broken branches, and whose boat was hollowed from a coffin. Why do you seek the child? He asked. Because he is mine. Then give me the first time he said your name. I did, and forgot how his voice sounded when he called me Papa. But I stepped into the boat, and crossed. The wasteland deepened. I passed playgrounds turned to charcoal, cribs blackened to splinters, tiny shoes buried in gray. I wept, I think. It's hard to remember. The third gate was kept by a man of glass, cracked and smoking from within. He asked for the moment we last embraced, the last time I kissed his forehead. I gave it. My arms felt empty afterward, but I walked. By now the smoke-wreathed figure was close. I could hear him breathing. Not the figure, my boy, his breath, his sleep sounds, right there behind the veil. I reached out, and was stopped. A tree stood in the center of the ash field, burned black but alive, leaves made of scorched memories, bark etched with names. It spoke in a voice like my own. To pass, give his name. My hands trembled. Without it, it said, you may not go further. I screamed. But if I give that, I'll forget everything. The tree did not answer. It didn't need to. I gave it, and the name vanished. From tongue, from mind, gone. I walked forward, no longer knowing why, only that something waited. The smoke-wreathed figure turned. In its arms a boy, sleeping, peaceful. He looked familiar. A pang in my chest, something once held, now hollow. Do you wish to carry him? The figure asked. I nodded. It laid the boy in my arms. He was warm. My tears fell without meaning, without memory, just grief, like breathing, like ash. We stood there a long time, man and boy, stranger and stranger, bound by a loss I could no longer name. Somewhere far off I heard a bell toll. The fire was over, but the smoke never left. But I walk still, carrying him, through dreams, through silence, through the world that forgets, as I did, as I must. They call me the father of ashes, but I am no one, not anymore, only a vessel for sorrow that has no name, Nos, and yet I hold him close, because some burdens are heavier than memory, and some love outlives even the self. The villagers call me blessed. They see the boy with clean hands and quiet manners, who brings herbs to the old, fish to the hungry, and prayers to the dead. My hair is gold, as the sunflowers in the fall fields, and my eyes, so I'm told, are soft, gentle, human, but only in the day. At night, I am something else, something born of water too dark to see through, and blood too old to name. I am the son of a drowned priestess, and a demon that lives in the deep of the marsh, and I am changing. The village never speaks of her, not my mother, not truly. They whisper about the priestess who walked into the bog one night, with flowers in her hands and didn't come out. They say the marsh took her, that she sang while she sank, that the trees bowed as she passed. They don't know she returned, just once, cradling me, a child too quiet, a child too cold, a child whose skin smelled faintly of silt. They took me in anyway. The midwife wrapped me in salt and rosemary. The elder blessed me under the sun 3 times. They gave me a name, a roof, a place, but I never stopped hearing the marsh, and when night falls I return to it. It begins with the ache in my lungs, a pulling, as if the air is too thin. Then my skin dampens, hardens, scales like fish hide. My mouth twists wider, my voice fragile by day, erupts into a cry that cracks the reeds. I run to the edge of the bog, barefoot, always barefoot. I cannot stay indoors, and there under the pale pull of the moon, I become the creature I am meant to be, thin-limbed, wailing, drawn to the black water like it's calling me home. The villagers don't see this part. I made sure of that, until the dreams began. In the dreams, I see him, my father, not with a face, never that, just a shape in the mire, a shadow in the water that pulses like a heartbeat. He hums through the reeds, and I wake with mud under my fingernails. The elder told me once, when my eyes turned green for a moment too long, what they believe I must do. Your father is the source of your curse, she said, placing a knife in my hands. If you face him, if you slay the demon, you'll be free, free. The word rang through me like a cracked bell. Yes, so I tried. The first time, I entered the bog at dusk. Before the change took hold, I carried the knife like a talisman, whispering the elder's words. The water rippled. He rose, not all at once, just enough. A limb made of root and smoke, a voice that felt like drowning. My son, he said, and I stabbed. He did not die. The blade passed through him like mist, but something entered me in return. That night, I didn't change back, not fully. My nails stayed black, my breath rattled like reeds. I hid it, barely. Debarred. I tried again, and again. Each time, more of him stayed inside me. My bones shifted, my teeth sharpened. I saw fish scatter when I stepped into the stream. Dogs refused my touch. Children stared, not in awe, but fear. And I wondered, was I killing him, or becoming him? The village still believes in me. They call me protector, healer. They ask me to bless their boats before they fish the marsh. But they don't see how my eyes no longer reflect in the water, or how my breath fogs glass, even in summer. They don't hear me singing at night, or screaming. I went to the elder again, begged her to tell me more. She looked at me like I was already gone. There is no freeing what was born, she said, only choosing what it becomes. That night, I walked into the marsh without the knife. I didn't come to fight. I came to ask, Why me? I said, standing waist deep in black water. My father rose from the reeds, more formed in shape. You are mine, he said, and hers. You are both. I don't want to be either, I said. He smiled. You don't get to choose the blood, but you choose the song. The next morning, I woke in the shallows. No pain, no hunger, just silence, and the sound of birds returning. I still change at night, but now I listen. I walk the marsh with careful steps, wailing only when I must. Not a curse, not a beast. A watcher, half boy, half thing, whole in a way I never was. The villagers whisper that the demon is sleeping, that the prince of the bog guards the water's edge. They leave offerings. I don't take them, but I sing for them when the storms come, and the floods never reach their doors. Dad, I still fear the shape in the deep, still fear what I might become. But I know now, running from the monster only gives it power. Facing it makes it part of you. I am not just his son, I am myself, and I am learning how to live with the scales.